He hit the wall so hard, the wall itself broke. And that's not a metaphor. That's not dramatic editing. The outer barrier physically bent inward and stayed there. NASCAR had to red flag the race for over 20 minutes just to fix the wall. Not the car, the wall. Now, Joe Gibbs, one of the most respected team owners in the history of this sport, just walked out of his post-race press conference with a look on his face that no fan of the number 20 car ever wants to see. And what he said next? It changes everything heading into next weekend. Stay with me, because this story gets worse before it gets better. Before we go any further, if you're new here, this channel is where NASCAR's biggest moments get broken down the right way. No fluff, no filler, just the real story. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications, because when moments like this happen, you're going to want to be the first one to know. Michigan International Speedway. 2 miles of pure, high-speed brutality. Cars pushing past 200 miles per hour, drafting inches apart. And one wrong move sends everything sideways in a fraction of a second. That's exactly what happened on lap 148 of the Firekeepers Casino 400, and nobody in that entire grandstand was ready for what they were about to witness. The race had already been chaotic before any of this. 10 caution flags had gone up, a record-tying number, and the energy inside that track was electric and unpredictable. Drivers were pushing hard, tempers were high, and the competition was absolutely fierce from front to back. Then came the restart that changed everything. Up front, Chase Elliott and William Byron were doing what Hendrick Motorsports teammates do best: working together, using the push to generate speed and get to the lead. It was working perfectly. Byron surged forward, Elliott was right behind him, and Christopher Bell, coming in the number 20 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota, was right there, fighting hard for second place. Elliott and Bell were side by side, two of the best drivers in the Cup Series, both on fresh tires, both fully committed to making something happen. Then they reached turn 3. Elliott went for the inside lane, trying to use his new rubber to hold the preferred line and gain the position. But the car broke loose underneath him. The rear stepped out. He got free. In a split second, his Chevrolet slid up the banking and made contact with Bell's Toyota. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't reckless. It was one of those moments that racing throws at you with no warning, no time to react, and no way to take it back. But the result was catastrophic. Bell's car got redirected violently toward the outside wall. He hit at nearly a 45-degree angle, full speed. No time to brake, no time to correct, no time to do anything except brace himself inside that cockpit. The impact was so violent that Bell's Toyota crumpled on contact and immediately burst into flames. And then, as if one hit wasn't enough, Elliott's car slid across the track and came back and slammed directly into Bell a second time, this time on the driver's side door. 2 massive hits within seconds of each other. The cars bounced and spun and eventually came to rest. And for what felt like an eternity, nobody knew what was happening inside those cockpits. Here's the moment that tells you everything you need to know about how violent this crash was. NASCAR's safer barrier system is engineered specifically to absorb extreme energy. It's 2 walls with foam in between, designed to flex and give so that drivers survive impacts they otherwise wouldn't. It has saved countless lives. But Christopher Bell hit that barrier so hard that the outer wall physically bent inward. It stayed bent. It didn't spring back. It didn't absorb the hit the way it was designed to. The force was so extraordinary that the structure itself was compromised. Crews had to come onto the track and physically repair the wall before racing could continue. The red flag came out. 20 minutes passed, and the entire NASCAR world sat in silence, watching that number 20 car, looking for any sign of movement from inside. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was on the broadcast, and he said something that I want you to really sit with for a second. He said he wanted to give NASCAR enormous credit for all the safety innovations. And then he said, and I'm going to paraphrase this carefully, that he wasn't sure you would ever see a car hit a wall that hard and have the driver walk away. That's Dale Earnhardt Jr. saying that. A man who understands better than almost anyone alive what a bad crash looks like, what it means, and what the silence afterward feels like. When he says something like that on live television, you stop and you listen. The moment both drivers climbed out of their cars, the crowd exhaled. That's always the first signal. You need to see them move on their own power. And both Bell and Elliott did exactly that. They got out. They walked. Chase Elliott came straight over to Christopher Bell. The two men stood there on the track in the middle of all that chaos, and they hugged, right there in front of everyone. That image alone told a story about the respect these two have for each other, and about the relief they both felt in that moment. Both drivers were taken to the infield care center, standard procedure after a crash of that magnitude. Elliott was evaluated, cleared, and came back out quickly to talk to the media. He was shaken, but physically fine. Bell did not come back out quickly. He stayed inside that care center for close to a full hour. And when he finally emerged, he didn't walk out to the waiting cameras and microphones. He slipped out through the back. He turned down every interview request. He didn't say a word publicly. Now here's what you need to understand about that. Drivers get checked out and released all the time. Minor incidents, precautionary evaluations, quick checks, and then they're back in front of the cameras. An hour in the care center, followed by a quiet exit through the back, that is not routine. That is a driver who is hurting. That is a team trying to protect information while they figure out exactly what they're dealing with. And then Joe Gibbs stepped in front of the microphones. Joe Gibbs is not a man who panics. He's won Super Bowls. He's won NASCAR championships. He's been in high-pressure moments more times than most people could count. So when he stands at a post-race press conference and his voice carries that particular weight, that measured, careful, concerned weight, people pay attention. Gibbs confirmed that Christopher Bell had suffered injuries to his wrist and his ankle in the crash. He said the team was going to make sure Bell got everything he needed when he returned home to North Carolina. And then he said the words that no racing fan ever wants to hear. We're going to have to wait. We're going to have to wait. Not, he's fine. Not, it's just precautionary. Not, he'll be good to go next weekend. He said they were going to wait. That they needed to get him in front of the right doctors. That they'd know more when they knew more. Reporter Jeff Gluck from The Athletic was the first to break the specific details, and from there, it spread across every NASCAR platform within minutes. Bell's wrist, Bell's ankle, no timeline, no clearance, just wait. Now stay right here, because what happens next in this situation, the timeline, the stakes, and what it means for the rest of the season, is something every Joe Gibbs racing fan needs to fully understand. Chase Elliott takes responsibility. While all of that was unfolding, Chase Elliott was not hiding. He stood in front of the cameras and he owned it completely. He said he was fine. He said it was totally his fault. He said he felt genuinely terrible about what happened to Bell, and that he was just trying to use his fresh tires to run the bottom lane and make a move. He explained that going into the corner, the car got loose. He thought he was going to spin, and then just as the car started to rotate, it suddenly hooked back up, and the momentum sent Bell directly into the wall. He said he stepped over the line and paid for it. Not deflection, not excuses, just a straightforward admission from a driver who clearly felt the weight of what happened. He also said he had already spoken to Bell personally, that he told him he was sorry, that it was not intentional, and that he has a tremendous amount of respect for Bell as a competitor and as a person. He said he believed Bell took the brunt of it and that he was genuinely glad Bell was able to walk away. That kind of accountability matters in this sport. It doesn't make the wrist feel better. It doesn't heal the ankle, but it means something. The reaction from inside the field was immediate and raw. Ryan Preece got on his radio and immediately asked if Bell was okay, saying the crash was wild. That's a driver in the middle of a race stopping to check on a competitor. Bubba Wallace's radio transmission was even more visceral. His exact words, with the expletive removed, were something close to, "Please tell me that guy is all right." That tells you what it looked like from inside those race cars. Not from a camera angle, not from the grandstands, from 200 miles per hour with nowhere to go and wreckage flying everywhere. And speaking of flying, Kyle Larson actually got hit by debris from Bell's car. His crew chief, Cliff Daniels, later identified it as the right side window from the number 20 that came off the car and struck Larson's machine. Think about that for a second. The crash was so violent that pieces of Bell's car became projectiles that hit another competitor down the track. Larson told his team something hit him in the roof, and he was pretty sure it left a mark. It was confirmed to be Bell's window. Here is where this story goes from being about one scary crash to being about something much bigger. Christopher Bell has been one of the best drivers in the Cup Series this entire season. Not one of the best in recent weeks, one of the best all year long. He's already locked into the playoffs. He's been in the championship conversation from week one. He's been consistent, he's been fast, and he's been showing up every single weekend ready to compete for wins. And now his wrist and his ankle need to be evaluated by doctors in North Carolina. Next weekend is Pocono Raceway, another big track. Another race where speed and physical control of the car are absolutely essential. You cannot drive a Cup Series car at Pocono with a compromised wrist. You cannot manage the physical demands of a 400-mile race if your ankle isn't right. These are not minor concerns that you push through. These are fundamental to a driver's ability to perform safely and at a high level. Bell is expected to be in the car, but expected is a long way from confirmed. And right now, the only people who can confirm anything are the doctors who are going to examine him when he gets back home. If that evaluation comes back with news the team doesn't want to hear, everything changes. The playoff push, the points position, the momentum he's built all season, all of it sits in the hands of medical professionals and the results of those tests. Joe Gibbs Racing has contingency plans for situations like this. Every team at this level does. But no contingency plan replaces Christopher Bell in that number 20 car when the season is on the line. While all of this was happening, the race eventually restarted, and someone had to win it. And the someone who won it was Denny Hamlin, which is a storyline all by itself. Hamlin started at the back of the field. His car had taken damage, and the team had to make repairs that sent him to the rear before the green flag dropped. For most drivers, starting at the back of a 400-mile race at a superspeedway is a disaster scenario. For Hamlin, it was just an inconvenience. He drove from the back all the way to the front, took the lead on a lap 162 restart, and then simply pulled away from the entire field. He beat second place by more than 10 seconds, not by a bumper, not by a photo finish, by 10+ seconds. It was his third win of the 2026 season and the 63rd Cup Series win of his career. That number ties him with Kyle Busch on the all-time wins list. And in a gesture that said everything about who Denny Hamlin is, he waved a flag honoring Kyle Busch in victory lane. The kind of moment that gives you chills if you understand what it means. Earnhardt Jones came home in second. Bubba Wallace was third. Kyle Larson finished fourth despite the debris that hit his car. Carson Hocevar rounded out the top five. Points leader Tyler Reddick had a rough afternoon as well. He got caught up in an incident when Carson Hocevar made too aggressive a move on John Hunter Nemechek during a restart, sending Reddick into the inside wall and ending his streak of top 15 finishes for the 2026 season. Not the day anyone at Front Row or 23XI or Trackhouse wanted. Bell ended the day classified in 31st, Elliott in 32nd. But nobody is talking about finishing positions right now. Nobody is running the points math from this race. The only number anyone cares about is however many days it takes before we get a health update from the Bell camp. Here's where we are right now, and here's the part I need you to really pay attention to as we close this out, because this is not finished. Christopher Bell is on his way back to North Carolina. He has a wrist that needs to be looked at. He has an ankle that needs to be looked at. Joe Gibbs said, "We're going to have to wait." The team is holding its breath. The fans are holding their breath. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, a season that has been one of the best of Bell's career is hanging in a very uncertain place. Dale Earnhardt Jr. said he wasn't sure you'd ever see a hit that hard and have a driver walk away. Bell walked away. That part is remarkable. That part is a credit to every engineer and safety innovator who has spent decades making NASCAR survivable in moments exactly like this one. But walking away from a crash and being healthy enough to race the following weekend are two very different things. And right now, we don't know which side of that line Christopher Bell is going to land on. The medical evaluation is coming. The answers are coming. And when they do, this story either gets a little better or it gets a lot more complicated. There is no in-between here. Watch this space. Watch this channel. Because the moment we know something, you're going to know it too. And if you're not subscribed yet, do it right now. Because this is exactly the kind of story that develops fast, and you don't want to be the last one to hear what comes next.